So today I will cover this concept called as time value of money and how to do it using MS Excel. Okay. So this is also a very practical topic, and I hope that whatever we cover in today's session, you might be able to do it, use it in some way in your day-to-day lives as well. It's an important topic, not just from a project perspective or whatever we do here, but also from a life perspective. I think it's a very important topic. So I'll get into it straight away. So I'll start with a very simple situation. Okay, so you just consider the following two options. The first option is you can get 100 rupees today. Okay, and the second option is you can get 105 rupees after 1 year. This is, I mean, you probably know the answer to this question, but let me just ask it for the sake of asking. Which do you think is better?
100 rupees today.
Exactly. Why?
Even if I put in FD in bank next year, I'll get 112.
So why do you think the first option is better?
Jairam, where are you getting 112? Here, you tell me where you are getting 112.
In 1 year.
Here in one chit fund, they are giving that 1% per month.
Chit fund is not the same as the bank deposit, Jairam.
Yeah, like fixed deposit. Yeah.
So fixed deposit, how much are you getting these days?
3 to 4%.
I think
5%.
5%. These days it's 5%. That's why Sai knows the numbers. That's why he put 105 there.
Okay.
Okay. So we are only getting like 5% these days. In most banks, I know just a couple of them actually. But I think more or less that's the market rate. Yeah. Go ahead, Sai.
Yeah. So, see, the reason why we say that the first option is better is because you might have heard about this proverb, right? A bird in hand is worth two in the bush. Okay. So what it basically means is whatever money that you have today is more valuable than what you can possibly get tomorrow. Now, just remember, the word possibly is the operating word. Okay. I'll come to that in more detail in a while. You know who's this guy?
He's I forgot his name. Warren Buffett.
Exactly. Yeah. So he is the third or the fourth richest person in the world. Okay. And do you know how he makes money?
Mostly by investments. He has a company, Berkshire Investments or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So he owns a company called Berkshire Hathaway, which is nothing but a holding company. So by holding company, what it does is they invest in other companies and they hold stocks in those other companies. And you just see the quotation on the right. So this is basically what he does. Okay. So like all sensible value investors, he values stocks based on the present value of all future cash flows and then buys at significant discount. Now concentrate on what I have underlined in that sentence. Present value of all future cash flows. Okay. So when you invest in a company, they typically pay out dividends every year, or there might be some share of the profit that you are getting every year. Okay. But those returns will be spread out over the course of multiple years down the range, to 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years, or even 10 years down the line. Okay. But the investment you are making today. Okay. So what you need to find out is all those series of future returns that you get, what is it worth in terms of today's money? So if you're equating it to today's value of money, what are all those future returns worth? That is what we need to estimate whenever you are making an investment. Okay, I'll go into detail of how to exactly do it, but this is basically the concept. Okay, always in investment. Okay. So like I said, so the money in hand today is more valuable than the money that we can get later on. Okay, why is this? Because whatever money you have in hand today, you can invest it, thereby generating more money. And if you choose to get money later, you run the risk of inflation, default, uncertainty. You might not even get that money. Okay, so there is always this risk. Now, in that 100 rupees, 105 rupees example, that was a very simple example that I gave. But when you're talking about it in terms of investing in stocks or any companies for that matter, you have all these risks associated with that investment. Okay, so that's why we say that whatever money we have in hand today is more valuable than the money that we can get later on. Okay, and then there might be multiple investment options typically, and which one to choose, which is the best option. Okay, and the last point is what I just said. So how much a series of future cash flows is worth as a lump sum value today. So you invest some amount in a company and they make yearly payouts of the returns, but in today's terms, in today's money value, what are all those future returns worth? That is what is needed to be estimated. Okay, go to the calculation part of it. See, this is a very simple example. Okay, let's say you have three options. Okay, you have 500 rupees and you can basically do three things with that 500 rupees. The last one being you can do nothing and just keep that 500 rupees with you. Okay, first option is you give that 500 rupees to a friend. After 1 year, he will pay back 570 rupees. Or the second option is you invest 500 rupees for, let's say, 10% for a period of 1 year. Okay, let's say you just ignore the third option. You want to make some extra money, so you go with either option 1 or option 2. Now this looks like an obvious example, but I have picked this example so that it is easier for you to understand the concept. Okay, so we need to evaluate option 1 and option 2 and arrive at which is the better option. Okay, so what you do is you have this 500 rupees with you today, right? You're giving it to a friend and he's saying he will pay back 570 rupees after 1 year. Now what you need to estimate is what is that 570 rupees that you get after 1 year, what is it worth today? That is what you need to estimate. Okay, so you see here what I have put. So I put present value of 500 rupees. So you have 500 rupees with you today. So what is that present value of that 500 rupees? That is 500 rupees. Okay, and your friend is saying after 1 year he will give you 570 rupees, but the value of 570 rupees that you get after 1 year, that money's value today, you see I have put it as 518. So how do we get this? So this is something called as the present value of money. Okay, so the formula for this is, you see here in this formula bar, so you put 570 divided by 1 plus this I9 or this 10%, the whole to the power of 1. So this is nothing but 570 is what you call as future value. Okay, so future value divided by 1 plus the rate, that is the 10%, the whole to the power of number of periods. So here we are talking about one year. So after 1 year he will give you back the money. So 1 year is the time period. So future value divided by 1 plus rate to the whole power of the number of periods. So the future value is 570, what your friend is saying he will pay you. And this rate, right, 10%. So that is typically, so how do you consider that rate? The rate of return for the best alternative investment. Now, what is that alternative investment that I'm talking about here? This option 2 is your alternative, best alternative investment. Because if you consider this option 1, what are the alternatives that you have? You can either invest it for 10% for 1 year, or you can just keep that 500 with you. But out of these two options, what is it that gives you the best rate of return? This 10%. Okay, so that rate of return for the best alternative investment, we put it as 10%. That is what the cell I9 to the power of 1 because the time period is 1 year. So this 10% is also called as the discount rate. Okay, I will go into the discount rate concept soon, but just remember there is one more name for this rate, which is called as discount rate. So using this formula, I am calculating the present value of this 570, which is nothing but my friend is saying he will give me 570 rupees after 1 year, but what is it worth today? So that is nothing but 518 rupees. Okay, and then you calculate this other metric called as net present value, which is nothing but it is like a sum of all the cash flows that you have. Okay, but how do you calculate this sum for the negative? For an outflow, which is nothing but when money is going out of your pocket, you have a negative sign. When something is coming inside your pocket, you have a positive sign. Okay. Hey, are we recording this session or?
I think it's getting.
SI we are recording.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so whenever money is going out of your pocket, you give a minus sign, because typically we don't like money going out of our pocket, right? Remember it that way. So negative sign for an outflow, positive sign for an inflow. Okay, so this minus outflow plus inflow, we call it as a net present value. So that is what we have here, this NPV, which is nothing but minus of D8, which is, so 500 rupees I'm giving it to my friend today, meaning it is going out of my pocket. So minus 500 plus the present value of 570 is what I have to consider. I cannot consider the direct 570. I need to consider the present value of 570, which is the 518. So minus 500 plus 518, because 518 is coming into my pocket. So plus inflow. So that net present value is 18 rupees. Okay. So there is another way to calculate this. Now here we have used this formula, this future value divided by 1 plus rate the whole power of n. That formula we have used, but there is another way to calculate this also. So you have time, right? So this is December 2020 today. You are giving your friend 500 rupees. We are representing as minus 500. After 1 year, he is giving 570 rupees. Okay. You have a direct formula in Excel. So C17 is the present value of the money today. So that we can put it directly, C17 500 minus 500, that is, plus this the present value of 570. So you can just use this NPV formula, and first parameter is the rate, which is nothing but the 10%, and then second parameter is the value, that is the 570. So at a rate of 10%, what is the present value of the 570 that you have, that you can get after 1 year? So you give that formula, it will give the same 18 rupees as the net present value. Okay. So this is basically the formula: current value plus or minus net present value of all future cash flows. So here we have only one payout, that is that 570 rupees which you get next year. So imagine if this 570 rupees, your friend is saying he will give 250 rupees after 1 year, then the remaining amount after 2 years. So then you can have one more parameter in your net present value. So we are saying net present value of all future cash flows. Okay. And the point to remember here is that whenever the NPV is positive, then it means you're having a profit. Okay. Whenever the NPV is negative, it means basically that series of cash flows that you get in the future, right? Your equation is, if the NPV is negative, then it means all those future cash flows today amount to a loss. That is the key thing to remember here. So always remember, the NPV should be positive if you are going ahead with the with that option. Okay. And one more thing to note here is that, so he is saying 570 rupees that he will give after 1 year, but it is worth, in today's money's value, it is worth only 518 rupees. Why? Because we have discounted that cash flow to account for all those uncertainty, inflation, default. So what do I mean by uncertainty? He is saying he will give that money, but he might not exactly give that money. So that is why we are saying uncertainty. And in more complicated or larger scale investments, you have this inflation, you have default, and all those things. Okay. So that is why we are saying we have discounted that cash at a rate of 10% to account for these factors, and that's why we are calling it as the discount rate. Any questions here so far? Okay, let me go to a larger example. Okay. Again, let's say you have two options. Okay. First option is you invest 100 rupees now. Second option is at the end of, first option is you invest 100 rupees now. Second option is you invest 100 rupees now. But the difference between these two options is how are you receiving the payouts or the returns. Okay. The first option, at the end of 2 years, you will be paid 50 rupees. At the end of 3 years, you will be paid 150 rupees. Second option, at the end of 1 year, you will be paid 150 rupees. At the end of 2 years, you will be paid 50 rupees. Okay. So how do you represent these cash flows? So now what do we have to do? We have to basically choose which is better, option 1 or option 2. Okay. So the instrument or the parameter for judging between the two options is the net present value. Okay. So how do you use the net present value? You need to have a series of cash flows. So here you see time right now. So let us say this is year Y. I invest 100 rupees in the option. I invest 100 rupees. So the money is going out of my pocket. So minus 100. And then after 1 year, I don't get any payment. But at the end of 2 years, I will get 50 rupees. So money is coming into my pocket at the end of 2 years. So Y plus 2, the cash flow is plus 50. And at the end of 3 years, I'll be paid 150 rupees. So Y plus 3, cash inflow again, positive 150. So this is the series of cash flows. So how do we calculate the net present value here? So current value minus 100 plus net present value of all future cash flows. So all future cash flows is nothing but what I get at the end of year 1, year 2 and year 3. So that is what we are saying, D10 to F10. So these three cash flows at the rate of 15%. So discount rate is 15% here. Okay. So this is for option 1 and you get a net present value of 36 rupees, which basically means you invest 100 rupees and you are paid 50 rupees after 2 years and 150 rupees after 3 years. But in today's terms or in today's value, what is all of this worth? It is worth 36 rupees. Okay. Now this is, remember, this is not to be viewed in an absolute manner. You have to view this relatively. Okay. So that is why we have this option 2 here, right? Where you're saying I invest 100 rupees today. At the end of 1 year, I'll be paid 150. At the end of 2 years, you'll be paid 50 rupees. And I am doing the same representation here also. Here, I'm using the same NPV formula again. And the NPV is 68 rupees. So out of these two options, this NPV for the second option is the higher NPV, which means option 2 is better than option 1. Okay. Now, you see this discount rate. Okay. The challenge here in investing, okay, it is always estimating this discount rate. This NPV calculation anybody can do. It's just a simple formula, and as long as you have the estimation of the cash flows, you can easily calculate the NPV. But how do you calculate the discount rate? Okay, I think so. Anyone who wants to succeed in this field, okay, they will be an expert in doing this. Okay, so even Warren Buffett, for that matter, says that estimating this discount rate is an art. Okay, it's not a science, but it's an art, because see, not everything in this world can be explained by a formula. So that's why he says it's an art. And the nickname for Warren Buffett is basically the Oracle of Omaha. So an oracle is someone who makes accurate predictions. Okay, so Warren Buffett is able to accurately estimate this discount rate and thereby pick the right stocks to invest in. Okay. So how do you think, what are your ideas on how to estimate this discount rate? Any ideas? I will give you a clue. Okay. So here we said, right, in the first example, this discount rate is nothing but the rate of return for the best alternative investment. Okay. So the best alternative investment is usually the no risk or the low risk investment. So the investment rate for that low risk investment is what is typically considered as the discount rate. So in this scenario, so let's say you are the person who wants to invest in option 1 or 2. How would you estimate this discount rate? Any ideas?
Based on inflation.
Not exactly. Any other points? See, so inflation. So you can think in terms of an investment that you can make. Okay, so you have this option 1 and option 2. Just assume that there is one more option, option 3, which is a low risk investment. So you can think in those terms. Okay, so what is typically done is, you might have heard of this term called as government bonds. Okay, so have you heard of this thing called as National Savings Certificate?
Yeah,
No?
NSC.
Exactly. So, so that National Savings Certificate is a government bond, and so even you can actually put money in that National Savings Certificate as part of your income tax savings. So it comes under Section 80C. So that is basically a low risk, extremely low risk investment, because see, the government is always guaranteed to give your money back. So that is what we term as the lowest risk investment, government bonds. So in India, we have this National Savings Certificate. In the US, you have something called as the T-bills or the treasury bills. So the rate of interest that you get for the government bonds is typically considered as the discount rate. Typically, and that's what most people do. But if you want to be a successful investor, that success lies in how well you estimate this discount rate. So the entire process is called as discounted cash flow, and the key to that discounted cash flow lies in accurately estimating this discount rate. Any questions?
Sai?
Yeah.
So in NPV formula, we are using like a yearly like money returned or money invested, right? If we have quarterly details in it, then how can we do that?
Yeah, so you will typically have to adjust your discount. So this 15% rate, it will be a rate for 1 year in this example. So per annum 15% rate. So if you're wanting to see at a quarterly level, then per quarter what would be the discount rate, and you will appropriately have to put in the quarterly payout values over here. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, move on to the next concept. So there is something called as the internal rate of return. Okay, so this internal rate of return, or IRR, is the rate at which the net present value becomes zero. Okay, so that is the definition of this internal rate of return. And so this IRR works on this assumption cash flows are reinvested at the discount rate. Now, we don't have to go into this in too much detail, but what we have to remember here is basically when evaluating two investment options, you can either go with the NPV method or you can go with the IRR method. Okay, and the expert opinion here is that NPV is a better metric than IRR for evaluating investments. Please don't ask me why, because if I knew the answer to that question, then I'll be a very rich man probably. But even I don't know. But this is what is typically considered. In case anyone knows why this is, please feel free to step in. But this is the rule by which many people go about. And for profit, the IRR or the internal rate of return should be greater than the discount rate. Okay, so what does this mean? I'll just come back to the first example for a moment. Here the discount rate is 10% and the NPV is 18. Okay, so what is the definition for the IRR that we said? It is the rate at which the net present value becomes zero. Okay, so instead of 10%, if I put 14%, you see what happens. This NPV becomes zero. Okay, so this 14% is the IRR. Initially, the discount rate was 10%. Now, when this becomes 14%, this becomes zero. So IRR in this case is greater than the discount rate. So 14% is greater than this 10%. And whenever that happens, that is when we turn a profit. Okay, so that's what we are seeing here. So for profit, IRR should be greater than the discount rate. Okay, so how do you calculate this IRR? So again, like I said, for evaluating two options, you can use either NPV or IRR. Now, I think in the previous examples, we saw how to evaluate using NPV. Now let's see how to do it using IRR. So let's say you have first option, you invest 2,000 rupees in the current year. After 1 year, you get 100 rupees. After 2 years, you get 100 rupees. After 3 years, you get 2,600 rupees. Option 2 is for the first 3 years starting now, you invest 1,000 rupees per year. Okay. Third year, you don't invest anything, nor do you get any money, any return. Okay. But after 4 years, you get 4,000 rupees. Okay. So, which is the better option out of 1 and 2? So you calculate the IRR for each of these options. Sorry. So formula for IRR is very simple. So you just have this function IRR, and then you just specify the range of values. Okay, which is nothing but the series of cash flows that you have over your subsequent time periods. And when I do that, for the first option, I get an IRR of 12%. For the second option, I get an IRR of 10% for these cash flows. So the internal rate of return for which for the option whichever the internal rate of return is higher, that is the option that we should go with. Okay. In fact, so the project that Akhil and I and even Swap until recently we were working on, basically that company invests in several real estate projects. Okay, and they use this metric, this internal rate of return, to evaluate which is the more profitable project to be invested in. So for each project, what they will do is, so how does that work? So for each real estate project, they invest a certain amount of money at some point of time. So that will be the equivalent to this 2,000 rupees that you see here. And over the course of many years, they will get returns. So whoever has invested in that project, they will get the money, some money back. Okay, and they are in a position to choose which is the best real estate project to invest in. Okay, so they will use this. So they are using this method actually. So this IRR calculation they are using. So basically they will calculate the IRR for each real estate project, and whichever real estate project is giving the higher IRR, they will invest in that project. Okay, but this is one way of calculating the IRR. This is, if you see, this is more of an idealistic scenario. Okay, because we have assumed that the payment that we make and the returns that we get are evenly spaced out at intervals of time. So at the end of year 1 you get 100 rupees, at the end of year 2 you get 100 rupees, at the end of year 3 you get 2,600 rupees. Similarly, here also you make an assumption that at the end of the year or at the beginning of year or at even intervals of time you get your returns. Okay, but practically if you see, that is not the case. So that is why we have one more concept called as XIRR, which is nothing but extended internal rate of return. Okay, now this can only be calculated using Excel. There is no manual calculation for this. This is a more realistic formula. This is used when investments and payments are made at irregular time intervals. Okay, so for example, so let's say you have, so you pay income tax, right? And as part of that tax saving, you can declare something called as a national pension system, or NPS. Okay, so this NPS is something like a mutual fund where you invest money at regular intervals of time, and you can save your income tax payment if you make that investment. So you can actually declare it as part of your income tax savings. Okay, so how do you typically invest in that NPS? So each month you set aside some money for investment. Okay, or you can also think about it in terms of a systematic investment plan, or SIP they call it, right? Usually. So let's say you're making some monthly investments in the mutual fund. Okay, so every month it is not possible for you to invest in that exact same rate. So 1st January, 1st February, 1st March, 1st April. So like that, like clockwork, it might not be possible for you to invest because you have a lot of other commitments as well. Okay, so in the month of January, you have invested 5,000 rupees. That is on the first day. Okay, but for February, on 3rd of February, you invested 5,000 rupees, and 1st March 5,000. But April, if you see, 11th of April 5,000. Okay, so all these investments are spaced out at irregular intervals of time. Okay, and finally after 6 months, on the 1st of July, you withdraw some 31,000 rupees from all these investments. Okay, so how do you estimate the rate of return for all the series of investments that you have made at irregular intervals of time? For that, you use this extended internal rate of return formula. So this is nothing but you have a function in Excel, XIRR, which takes these two parameters mainly. So first one is values, second one is dates. So this is an optional parameter. I myself haven't used it, so I don't know much about it. First parameter is values, which is nothing but the series of cash flows that you have, starting from this H column to the N columns, from this minus 5,000 to the 31,000. Second column is the dates, which is this 1st January to the 1st July. Okay, so when you give in these two parameters, it will give you what is the rate of return that you have on your mutual fund investment for the 6 months, and then you take out 31,000 rupees at the end of 6 months. Then what is the rate of return? That is what is given by this XIRR formula. So yeah, any questions here? Okay, so that's all I had for today.